Okay. Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for your patience. I know that Councillor MacDonald was just checking her declaration, so can I ask Councillor MacDonald to let me know how that went?
Thank you, Convener. Yes, I've checked the guidance and I believe it's reasonable to declare a connection to the topic on Marhall. My son works there, and for reasons of transparency, I'm declaring that connection and I'll take part in the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Go ahead with the meeting this morning. So the first thing on the agenda under the Licensing Scotland Act is applications for major variation of premises licence to be considered. And is the Postal Hall, Marhall in Bishopton. Now, Douglas, as our legal representative, can I ask you to introduce this and explain the procedure this morning?
Certainly, Convener. This is an application for variation, non-minor, and there are no adverse comments to it. So the application is to amend the activities in the operating plan. And as I say, there's no adverse comment. The agent for this matter, Mr. McGowan, is here today. I think he's out the actual picture as far as I can see at the moment, but he's with his client. You have to hear from Mr. McGowan, Convener.
Okay, Mr. McGowan, do you wish to speak to this application?
Yes, good morning, Convener. Good morning, councillors. Hopefully this camera will adjust itself. There we go.
Yep.
I'm with Joe Gallagher, who's the gentleman that's sitting with me, Your Honours. Joe is the General Manager for Marhall. He's come into my office this morning for us to do the virtual hearing together, and thankfully the fancy camera system in the meeting room is now working and you can see me. Anyway, good morning, Your Honours. We've got 4 applications for major variation for Marhall on your agenda this morning. The first one on the list, as you see, Councillor McEwen, is El Posto. I wonder if, Councillor McEwen, if you'll be with me on making a single general submission for all 4, on the basis that obviously if you have any specific questions, but essentially it's a tidy up for all 4 applications, and rather than having me say the same thing 4 times, I thought I would just save us all a wee bit of grief and ask if I can just make a single submission. Is that helpful?
Yes, that is helpful, Mr. McGowan, but you'll bear in mind, and I think it's the 3rd application, that there is a representation from the police as well. Douglas, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, I wonder, Mr. McGowan, if the cleanest way of dealing with this is, subject to the board's views, of course, that you make your general submission for the first item, El Posto, and then we call the others and you just adopt what you already said, and then obviously you can address what the police say, and when you come to the 3rd one as well. Would that be helpful?
Okay.
Yes, that's acceptable. No problem at all. Happy to deal with it that way.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. McGowan, if you go ahead.
So yes, just by way of general context, Your Honours, I'm sure that the application premises and site is very familiar to you. The reason we're here today is the premises is undergoing a significant investment, having been bought over by some new owners. We've had licences transferred across to the new company, and Your Honour, Clerk's office has also dealt with minor variations for each of the 4 licences on the site as well, to tidy up some of the layouts. Joe, who's with me today, Joe Gallagher, the General Manager, when he was appointed, he took the decision to do a health check of all of the 4 licences. It seemed to us that they probably hadn't been looked at since conversion, since 2009, and really just were in need of a bit of a tidy up, bit of housekeeping. So the 4 applications that have been lodged really just relate to that kind of wider change point, where we've got the new owner, Joe, coming in as the new General Manager, and hopefully once we've spoken about the different applications, we can see that we're really just looking to have things tidied up to meet Your Honour's current policy. Now, in terms of this, so that's the kind of general submission that I suppose relates to all four. In terms of the specific requests for the El Posto licence, we are just looking to tidy up some of the activities that I mentioned there. So, for example, adding references to live performances and adding references to other types of activities that may occur. It's to cover the fact that, as I'm sure your honours appreciate, Mar Hall is used in a variety of multi-purpose ways, although it's very well known for hosting weddings and so forth. The wider grounds, the wider facilities are used for all sorts of different community events, charity events, various different things. So really the changes to the licence are just to make sure that the licences are flexible enough to reflect those different types of uses. And with this particular application, there is nothing in there that I think causes any particular concern. It's really just, as I say, a tidy up. So happy to commend that one to you, subject to any questions that you might have for me, convener.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGowan. Is there any questions from members? No questions from members. I'll simply put a motion in then that we agree the first application for Mar Hall. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. And we're now on to the second application for Mar Hall. Yes, and we take on board what Mr. McGowan has already said. Is there any comments from members? No comments from members. So again, I'll put an application, a motion forward that we agree this application. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Right, thank you. We're now on to the third application for Mar Hall, and in this particular case, it's the marquee at Mar Hall. And once again, we have taken on board what Mr. McGowan has said, but I see that there is a representation from the police. So if I can ask, I think it's Fiona Tyers from the police, if you could speak to your representation, please.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, in terms of this application, should your honours be minded to grant this application, Police Scotland would respectfully request that it is granted with the following conditions in respect of the outdoor drinking area. All drinks must be sold in plastic or toughened glass receptacles. All bottled drinks must be decanted into such receptacles. Challenge 25 policy to be strictly adhered to. All customers must be seated, no vertical drinking shall be allowed. The designated outdoor drinking area shall be supervised by staff at all times. No alcohol. Sorry. No alcohol is to be removed from the designated outdoor drinking area. The area boundary must be clearly defined by a physical barrier with clear signage indicating that no alcohol may be removed. There are no other adverse comments in respect of the other proposals.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McGowan, if you take on board the conditions asked for there by the police, can I ask you to make a statement on this?
Yes, convener, could you just bear with me one moment? I just want to clarify something with my client before I give my response. Just bear with me one moment, please.
That's no problem.
Thanks very much for the moment just to clarify. If I just take the conditions that the police have proposed, your honours, we're very happy to accept the condition around challenge 25, and we're happy to accept the condition that relates to supervision of the outdoor area at the marquee, and we're also happy that alcohol shouldn't be removed from the licensed areas. We do, however, need Police Scotland and your honours to take into account the purpose of the venue with regards to the proposals for drink can only be sold in plastic. I think that's something which, for the nature of this facility, I would argue respectfully is not proportionate. What we're talking about here is primarily a wedding function marquee. So I can understand that type of condition where you would have plastic glasses being used in an outdoor area, you know, for example, in a bar, in a beer garden. But this is an area where families will gather to take photographs of the bride and groom, you know, holding a glass of champagne. Seems to me that in that type of use and for this type of facility, that condition would be very onerous. It's not a condition that exists on the current licence. And of course, the current marquee has been used for who knows how many weddings over long years where there has been no issues. There isn't no issues mentioned around the use of people being able to stand outside and get their pictures taken or whatever it might be whilst holding a glass of champagne. So although I understand the origin of that type of condition in a general sense, I think you have to take into account the very unique nature of what this premises is. You know, the use of this marquee is not going to be, you know, a beer garden. It's for weddings. It's for significant costly events, functions of that nature. And so I wonder if, you know, in terms of proportionality, I think we should really reflect on that. Consider, Your Honours, the operational impact that condition would create for my client if you imposed it. This is a wedding marquee. You know, so having a condition of that nature where people are moving around, this also links to the vertical drinking condition as well, Your Honours. You know, this is a situation where people are standing, they're milling, they're being offered canapes, you know, they're there in their best three-piece suits and tops and tails and all the rest of it. Whilst I accept that in a normal scenario, a condition about glass or vertical drinking would be, you know, probably something that most of us would understand and accept. I really think we do need to take into account the very specific and unique nature of what that facility is. And as I've said before, Your Honours, this premises has operated in this way without a condition of that nature, and there's been absolutely no issues over long years, over countless how many weddings have been held in that marquee. I don't have a number off the top of my head, but it must be 100 a year. Well, Joe's just telling me they do roughly 100 a year.
In the past, yeah.
100 a year. So if there had been any concern about glass, you know, champagne flutes, I'm sure with that volume, there would have been, you know, evidence to support a requirement for a condition of that nature. So I think, I wonder if, based on what I've said, I wonder if Police Scotland might reflect on the condition that they've proposed. It does seem to me to be disproportionate to the style of venue. Your Honours, if you were to impose that condition, that would create a real difficulty for Mar Hall to attract weddings where you can't stand outside with a glass of champagne. I really feel we need to push back on those conditions for those reasons. Happy to offer further submissions once Your Honours have digested what I've had to say. Thank you.
Councillor Steele?
Apologies, convener, I didn't hear you calling me in. Mr. McGowan's actually addressed the question, one of the questions I was going to ask, which was this, how to enforce a ban on vertical drinking at such events. Can I point us to the final police bullet point? In particular, the area boundary must be clearly defined by a physical barrier. I'm slightly curious about this. Please forgive me, Ms. Tyers, I don't know your rank. I'm not being disrespectful addressing you this, I just don't know what your rank is. Does the marquee itself, or would the marquee itself rather, not constitute a physical barrier, and there wouldn't be a need for that condition? Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to answer that?
Yes, thank you. Well, as Mr. McGowan was saying about the outdoor, you know, the outdoor photographs, etc., I think a delineation of the area of drinking would be beneficial for the purpose of this. Whether that is, you know, I've seen it before with the those large planters, ropes, that type of thing. effectively what we're asking is that it is an area that is marked off for the event, and we don't have people just wandering from area to area with the drinks. That's effectively it.
Okay. Councillor McFarlane?
Thanks, convener. I know that Mr McGowan's got his hand up. I don't know if he's wanting to address that point from the police before I come in and say my bit.
Well, carry on, Bruce. I'm quite sure he'll address both, please.
No worries, convener. My point in relation to some of the police points is I think what Mr McGowan there was saying about the type of venue it is something that the board should really pay attention to. I mean, you know, the type of venue it is, I completely get the point. You know, if you're spending that amount of money in a wedding, that amount of money in a drink, to have it in a plastic glass wouldn't necessarily be appropriate in my view. I think as well that milling about in weddings, photos, as Mr McGowan's saying, you know, standing with a champagne flute, again, that's I completely understand where Mr McGowan's coming from. The other point I'd say as well is if it's a wedding, in terms of any security concerns, there's going to be a list of people that's invited in my view, so you're not going to know who's there. There's not going to be any uninvited guests as far as, well, I wouldn't expect that, but you know, you're going to have a list of who's attending, who's going to be there. So if anything was to happen, I don't think it would. You would know who was in the location. So that's kind of my comments on it. I would be minded to remove those conditions that the police have asked in terms of no vertical drinking and to be sold in plastic receptacles. I wouldn't necessarily be minded to agree to such conditions on that. Thanks, convener.
Okay, thank you. Mr McGowan, that was 2 questions there, or 2 comments. Can I ask you to comment on them?
Thanks, convener. Yeah, hopefully just to offer further comfort, the outdoor area that we're referring to here is an outdoor area that's adjacent to the marquee, just to pick up on Councillor Steele's comment. It's a terraced decking area that's immediately adjacent to the marquee, and it is delineated. So just to give everyone comfort around that point, the hotel has spent a significant amount of money on making this area look really, really nice for their guests and the people who are booking the marquee for their weddings. So we're actually happy to agree to the general condition that the police are saying that they want the area controlled. That's what we do anyway. That's what Joe and his team do anyway. And it is a delineated area that's immediately next to the marquee, and that's where people might go out and mill or stand with their champagne and take their pictures and so on. So happy to agree to that. Hopefully that's helpful. But I'm not sure if I need to respond to Councillor McFarlane's point, other than to say I'm pleased with his point, because I think he's hopefully with us on the generality of my point that the police, those 2 specific conditions seem to me to be disproportionate because of the type of premises.
Okay, thank you, Mr McGowan. Before I ask any other questions from members, Fiona Tyers, do you want to come in on what's just been said by Mr McGowan?
Yes, thank you very much. I do get a lot of comfort from, as you've described, Mr McGowan, about having that delineated area. That does give me a lot of comfort. It's just to make them the board aware that the conditions that have been asked for here are generally quite standard conditions that we would ask for in a situation like this. So it's just to make you mindful of that, with what was being said here about the unique nature of this of this venue. So it was just to make you aware that these are quite standard conditions, just before you make your decision.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from members? Any other questions? No. Well, can I ask you just to very quickly sum up? Mr McGowan, if you want to sum up first.
Thanks, convener. On the basis there doesn't seem to be any concern about the remainder parts of the application, I would simply commend all of that to you. It seems to be the focus of the conversation has come down to the 2 specific conditions that the police have suggested. Whilst I accept the police's observation there that the conditions are standard, I think your honours know my point on this, which is that standard conditions are only appropriate where it is proportionate. I think this venue speaks for itself, and I really do ask your honours to consider the operational impact. If you were to impose a condition that prevents people standing up, and if you were to impose a condition that prevents people from holding a glass of champagne, that would be a huge negative impact on Marhall's ability to take bookings, because people might be put off from booking a space which has those types of conditions. And although the operational or commercial reality of what that might mean is not necessarily a licensing objective, it is the real world. What I would say with respect to the licensing objectives, if you think of the licensing objectives and ask yourselves, are any of the objectives harmed by the operation of this space as we propose it? Well, I think the answer to that has to be no. And that's on the basis that it's already been operating over long years without these conditions. If there had been any evidence to justify the imposition of these conditions, we might have a different conversation that we're having just now. Your Honours know you have to proceed on an evidential basis. I hope that you're with me that those two conditions are not appropriate because of the nature of this venue. Thank you.
Okay. Fiona Tyers, can I ask you to sum up?
Sorry, again, yes, just basically what I kind of said before is that, excuse me, beg your pardon. The conditions I requested in this, they are respectfully requested. However, it is obviously entirely up to yourselves which you do undertake or do not undertake. They are standard conditions that we would generally ask for this. I'm mindful that this is a unique venue, and I'm pleased to say that they've undertaken, happy to undertake the Challenge 25 and the delineated area and the no removal of alcohol from the designated outdoor drinking area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr McGowan, before I just add you in just for one last word, Douglas, I think you want to say something?
No, convener, it was really just to say, obviously, Miss McGowan had kind of summed up first, but it's to make sure he did get the last word.
Yeah.
Right. What I was going to also, I don't know if convener, it might be you want to go into recess in this matter, but I'll leave that for members. Just, and you know, if there's any question of the conditions are disputed, attached, then obviously there'll have to be clarity as to what licensing objectives are in play and so forth. Okay, right, Mr McGowan, I'll just let you have the last word on this. Before I will have a very quick, a very brief recess, but I'll allow you that last word. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll keep it brief. You know where we're coming from, I suppose, with respect to the two conditions. So if I just offer another additional olive branch, which is to say that, assuming your honours are with us on this and don't impose those conditions, then Joe and the staff would be very happy to meet with the police and indeed Mr Dixon from Licensing Standards to discuss the operation of the venue going forward without those conditions, and to work with the police sensibly and to work with Licensing Standards sensibly, as they always have done in the past, and they will continue to make those offers. And hopefully that again just reassures everyone in the meeting this morning that those conditions are not necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now go into a brief recess, and the decision will be made when we come back. Okay, so if you could just leave and I'll bring you back in a moment.